Ladies and gentlemen, we are live with Thomas Olivier, the CEO and founder of an amazing platform called Omnos, omnos.me. So, what is it about? What's Omnos about?
Omnos is about helping you to really get to the depth and also the prioritization on how to optimize your health. Obviously, it's based on validated science and based on data. So it all starts with a self-assessment where we can already understand about where you are coming from, what are your habits, your environment, and then already it's enough to give us an idea of what potential symptoms you may have or things that you might want to investigate. And then our platform, our algorithm, is then recommending you what is the next best test for you. Whether it can be hormones that you want to check out, whether it's all the organic acids or our envirotoxin test. So this is what we do, and then we give you all the personalized recommendations on things to do, things to avoid, people to see sometimes, or things to take if supplements are needed. Mm-hmm. And I think what is very interesting is the aspect of democratizing the whole science behind it, because our mission is to democratize the science behind health, to make it accessible for everyone, right? So this is the first step on how to describe the platform,
Okay, so it starts with a panel of tests. Yep. How does it start? What's the first test?
Well, the first step, you can sign up for free now, going on omnos.me.
Yeah.
And you answer a bunch of questions, so the self-assessment, that already will give you all those information on what is the next best test to do, but also give you already an insight on certain advice, and all of this is free. This first step is the first part. Then genetic is different, so the genetic you do one test and you don't have to do it again. The difference is our genetic test. We use genotyping, so we take around 700,000 of genes. And I think it's important to say already that we're all about data ownership, in the sense that you do one test with genetic test and you will never have to do another test again, because we'll update you constantly about findings, as the science progress. So for example, last week, we were waiting for more papers to come out, but we added respiratory disease outcome.
Respiratory diseases?
Outcome, yes. Yeah. So we have around 50 genes around that. So basically the COVID genes, right? Mm-hmm. And that gives you an idea of risks outcome. But also what to do about it, because, obviously genes are predispositions, or your genes are not your fate, right? So you can change the expression of them by changing your lifestyle, your diet, and your environment. And this is where we intervene. We really are about, one, give you the data, but then educating you on what to do, and then obviously references the science with it. So the science is not just a Snipedia link, if you wish, it's the real science of it. It's, okay, so if you talk about VSNPs, the paper is the right paper. So academics, dietitian can also use that, right?
Nice.
Because let's not forget, especially in the UK, it's not regulated, so you have to self-regulate yourself. Okay. That's why we have an amazing advisory board for.
Yeah, and you do have the dream team of advisory board. So the genetic test, the Omnos genetic test, is a core part of the first panels. Yep. What else do you have in the portfolio?
So it starts with you have 4 other tests. For now. And
4 tests.
4 tests, yeah.
Yep.
So we have the organic acid test. We call it the envirotoxin test, but we'll look at 76 different type of markers, plus all the envirotoxins, so car toxins, solvent toxin, cosmetic toxins, all these sort of things. It will look at your liver toxicity, your fungus, your yeast.
That's based on blood?
No, that's actually a pee sample that you do first thing in the morning. You receive, when you order our test, you receive it at home. You're provided with the instructions and the tools to do it. Send it back directly to the lab, and then you get a notification that your results are ready and it's available on the platform. and then obviously you have your results. And it's it's all about, in our effort of democratizing the science behind health, we disalienate the language. We give you the content on what to do. And you also have within this ecosystem all the registered health professional in case of there is something more clinical or something you want to go a bit further in explanation. So you do have the health professional available to be booked on the platform.
Nice.
And
the first one was the genetic test. That's a mouth swab.
Yep,
Second one is P sample for the toxicity test.
Exactly.
Environmental
so then we do the microbiome test.
Microbiome.
Yeah, microbiome. So now the microbiome, we call it microbiome, but it's a lot more than that in the sense that it's called a GI map. So not only we'll look at your what we call dysbiosis, so your sort of diversity of bacteria and the balance of them. But it will also look at many of the markers in relation to intestinal health, looking if you have leaky guts or not, looking if you have fungus, parasite, pathogens, viruses even, and also looking into markers like SIGA, which are the first line of defense of your immunity. So which is markers that are very important in our times. Right now, because this obviously, if it's low when you get infected, and let's say you have those disease risk outcome, it could be a bit dangerous. So we want to educate people about, okay, if your risk is very high, let's say on this marker, because it's low, so you have a low first line of defense of immunity, we obviously want to help you on things to do, things to avoid, or certain supplements you can take to really put that up into the high range. That's for microbiome.
That'll be a stool sample?
Yeah, that will be a stool sample.
The fourth one?
So the fourth one you've got one more, which is also the hormone test. And the hormone test is basically a Dutch test, so the equivalent of Dutch test. So those tests, we haven't reinvented the wheels, is basically the test that most functional doctors will use.
Yeah.
But what we have done is to make them more accessible
in a beautiful platform. Honestly, it's the best designed.
Yeah. It takes quite a long time to do. Yeah,
it's the best designed web application I've seen in a while.
Yeah,
really beautifully designed.
We're actually on for winning an award about that. So it's
again.
We might even applying to win an award with this because we've been advised to.
You've got my vote. My vote.
So it's also the functionality of it. As I said again, and I'll repeat again, if you want to democratize something, you need to disalienate the language behind it. You need to make it user-friendly. You need to make sure that people understand and get sort of engaged with it. But once you have those parameters, it's amazing because people are a lot more proactive towards their health. They see all those things. You can track back to the hardcore science, the words you don't understand. It's still there, it's still on the platform, all the way to simple recommendation that you will understand, or even video of practitioners explaining in layman's terms what it means for you, right? Beautiful. So this is the big difference, I think, and this is an interesting bit. So that's hormone test, and then we have the element test, which is basically hair mineral, looking at all, get a bit of hair. This one is very interesting to look at all the heavy metals, but also your key elements like calcium, magnesium, and all those things, sodium, lithium, but more interestingly as well, what I think is missing out most of the time is the ratio between those elements, because you can have, be told that you have not enough calcium, enough calcium, but maybe you have too much calcium in your ratio with magnesium. So you shouldn't take calcium, but you should take magnesium instead. So there's all those nuances. And this is what we've been working quite hard on doing. And then the all heavy metals, how does this interact with all those other key elements? Things like mercury, for example. Does it deplete you of zinc? Does it deplete you of iron? People
and that's one thing I've realized in the times that we're spending together is that when we're talking about potential risk factors, you personally are an oracle in all of these interplays and everything. You're like contributing a lot to the conversations. So look, I'm seeing that there's a lot of there are a lot of testing platforms here. I've personally interviewed a couple of other ones, and I'm curious. And I would ask everyone the same question: what makes you different from the other options? Why would someone choose Omnos?
Yeah. I think first, Omnos, just to come back on the word, comes from omnis, is anything and everything, the Latin. And the difference comes from what we have managed to create, in the sense that none of us tests on our platform works in isolation. What I mean by that is, as I just mentioned, if your mercury depletes you of iron, it means you are low in iron, but we're not necessarily going to tell you to take iron, because if your microbiome test tell you that actually you have certain type of opportunistic bacteria that feeds on iron, and that actually you have leaky guts, so issue with your guts, and that could lead to autoimmune diseases. That comes as a priority. This is why we call it an intelligent health system. So instead of telling you take iron supplements because you're low in iron, well, no, first get rid of this parasite. That's the priority for you, or this opportunistic bacteria. And then once it's done and you have had other things like oregano oil or whatever the protocol has been chosen for you to remove this parasite, then comes into doing all the other things. And what we realize by doing that is, instead of having a crazy list of all the things you need to do, when you sort out, the top outline pathways for you, then the rest sort himself out, because your body is just healing itself all the time. Obviously, you can reach a level where you are at a clinical level where you need a bit of support, and you need to organize things by order of priority. And this is what the platform does. So I think this is the first key difference between any other company.
It's more holistic.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's also the reason why we're doing that is we're really going for trying to solve a big problem. I'm a bit of a dreamer.
Democratizing.
Which is democratizing the science behind health. And again, to do that, you need to have this level of complexity to go into the granularity of things. And that level of complexity is needed to do other things. When you look at data and you implement things like we have machine learning, artificial intelligence, we're very complex. And it's hard for us as humans to really interact with all those different data points. But if you have a test and it only works by isolation, in the sense that you have all those data points, but you don't connect the dots, then you can be misinformed. You can be giving things that actually could make things worse. But also, what it allows us to do by connecting the dots is to do research, and we work closely with. We're having very interesting people in our board.
I can vouch for them.
People who are close, working with the government, people who are working with universities, and there's all this big data analytic that can uncover patterns. So we talked about, certain things like lithium. If you have certain genes to do with like brain health that are high risks, and you have a parasite, let's say, and all those things, you have this over 1,000 people have the same pattern. It can be covered and give clue to things, right? It's like, okay, well, there's 1,000 people who have the same sort of issues related to the same symptoms. Then you start uncover things, and then you can do predictive analytics.
Great.
Predictive prevention, pretty
Very
much.
nice. Very nice. And so we're going to wrap up in a minute, but if you were to leave the audience with one key message, it's obviously going to be sign up for omnos.me. It's a free trial. Have a look at the interface. Have a look at the onboarding. Aside from that call to action, what would be the key idea you would leave with the audience or share with the audience?
I think the key ideas that I would leave is for people to stop following trends, but look more into their bio-individuality, right? So most of the trends, things like a keto diet, is great in principle, but it's not necessarily for everyone. The principles are fundamentals and they're amazing, but then you can adapt it to yourself. But for this, you need to know about your bio-individuality. Okay, so maybe you don't, the amount of saturated fat won't necessarily be good for you. So maybe because you have certain genes that won't work optimally to transport that fat, and if you have too much, it will oxidize. And then you can see that through our organic acid test. We'll look at the fat breakdown, right? And actually, yes, if it's too high, that means you need to focus maybe on monosaturated fat and omega-3s instead. So what I'm saying in short is, like, start by your digging into your own bio-individuality, explore.
Don't follow the trends.
Adapt.
Don't follow the trends. Focus on your
You are the
bio-individuality.
trends, and start looking into the amazing amazing uniqueness of yourself.
Nice.
And start making the difference for yourself. But the thing is, by doing that, in platform like this one, you work on the collaborative learning. So you actually do that for a lot of people. You contributed to something which is bigger, and you influence others to do the same. And hopefully we can change things,
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your work. Omnos.me, everyone. Go cop that. Thank you.